Well, hey there, and welcome back to Stuff in Excel. There are times when you have a data set, and that data set needs to be sorted randomly for audit purposes. You might also need to stratify that sample and look at different subgroupings of that data. Well, fortunately, Excel includes a couple of tools that help you with that. They've got a couple of random number generators that you can use. In addition, you can use the sorting tool very effectively by layering your sorts on top of one another. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to randomize your data, and then after you've randomized the data, we're going to look at how to stratify that data very quickly and easily in Excel.
This is a data set you may have actually seen before. It's used very often in a lot of examples of Excel kind of functions that you see on the internet. I found it and I've decided it's a good data set to use. It's about 700 lines long or so. It's got a lot of good, interesting data in it that you can manipulate. So we're going to use this. One thing I want you to notice is the first 3 columns, or maybe the first 4 columns, are what I would call dimensions of the data. It tells what each segment that each item is in, the country, the product, and the discount band. Now, all the columns from E out to P are numbers. They're not really what I would refer to as dimensions of the data. So what we will do is we are going to make sure that we understand that. The second thing is I want you to notice that this data is already in a table. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to assign a random number identifier to every single transaction that's in this table, every single item that's in this table. Now, the way I'm going to do that is I'm first going to insert a column between column D and column E. And I'll simply right-click on column E, and I'll click Insert. Now, I want you to notice something. Column D is actually formatted as an accounting format. Column E is formatted general. So when I insert, I do right-click and insert. The new column is going to have an accounting format. That's because when you insert a column, it picks up the formatting of the column immediately to the left. So we'll want to change this to a general formatting. So I'll go ahead and do that now. I'm going to call this column random identifier, if I can remember how to spell. Now, I'm going to assign a random number to every single item that's in this column. Now, random numbers are different than haphazard numbers. They are statistically random. There's no pattern to the data themselves, to the numbers themselves. Now, there are 2 functions we could use here. One is called equals rand open paren, close paren. That is one we could use, and that's the one we're going to use. There's another one that you might want to use sometime called equal rand between. Now, in this function, you can actually set a range. So what if I wanted a random number between 1 and 10? I'd say 1, 10, and close the parenthesis. And then when I hit the enter key, it's going to pick all those. Now, the problem with the range I picked is it's obviously going to repeat, right? We're going to have a lot of repeating numbers, and we don't necessarily want that. The rand between function can be very useful if, in fact, you want to limit the range of your data. So say you've got 10 students in a class, you want to give each student a random number to put them in a group, so you might give them a random number between 1 and 4, and that would put them in a group. So we don't want to do that though in this case. We're going to use the other function, which is the rand function. So equals rand open paren, close paren. We don't put anything in the parentheses. When I enter, it's going to assign to me a 5-digit number at random between 0 and 1. And there it is. Actually, it's in this case, it looks like it's about 7 or 8 digits. I can change that if I want to. It doesn't really matter. Now, what I want to do, matter of fact, let's go and just reduce that down to 5 digits. Actually, I want to do all of them. So Control Shift down. It picks all of them. I'm going to move them all to just 5 digits. And there we go. Now, the question is, do I have any duplicates in here? So I'm going to highlight all of these, and I'm going to go to conditional formatting, and I'm going to do highlight cells, and it'll highlight anything that's got a duplicate value in it with dark red. So let's see if in fact I have any duplicate numbers in here. It does not appear that I do. It appears that all these numbers are non-duplicates, and that's good. Now, the problem with this function is that if I do anything anywhere else in the table, what's going to happen is these random numbers will change, because the random number identifier, the equals rand open paren close paren, is what I refer to as an active function. So if I change, let's just change the country over here in column B2 or cell B2 to France. Now don't pay attention to that. I want you to pay attention to column E. When I do this, every single one of those numbers changes. If I change it back to Canada, every single number will change. Every single one of those numbers changed, and I really don't want them to. So how can I fix those digits? Now that I've identified and created a random number for every single item in here, and by the way, they changed, so I'm going to have to check them again to make sure that there's no duplicates. So let's do that one last time to see it. And if there are any duplicates, what I'm going to need to do is I am going to need to replace that number, and then I'll have to check for duplicates again. As I said, it appears that there are no duplicates in these numbers, so that's excellent, right? So what I'll do now is I will fix these. The way I'll do this is I'll hit Control-Shift down, and that'll highlight the entire range. Now I'm going to use a little trick. Now one of the things I could do is I could copy this data. We'll go back to the top of the column. I could copy this, all of that, do a copy, and then do a paste special values. That would do it. Now I'd have to tell it where to paste it, though. I can't just paste it anywhere. So I could do that, but there's an easier way to do it. And the way we're going to do it, there I went, I changed it again. So, but what we're going to do is I'm going to take this number, we're going to highlight that whole range. I will check it one last time for duplicates. I don't think I've got any duplicates. Does not appear that I do. That's good. And it would be highly unlikely that I would, though it can happen. So now that those numbers are highlighted, I'm going to take my cursor. Notice right now the cursor, if you look at that cursor, and we'll make this a little bigger so that you can see it. This cursor, if you'll notice, this is a big fat, sort of almost like a plus symbol right there, right? Big white fat plus symbol. Now watch out when I position this right over the edge of my box. So you got to change it to that four-way arrow. I want that. Now I'm going to click down with my right button, and I'm going to hold that right button down. When I do that, I'm going to drag this whole bunch of items to the right, and then keeping everything lined up and not moving up or down, I'm going to move it right back. Whoops, I moved it up. I'm going to move it right back to the left on top of itself and let it up. Now it's going to ask me what I want to do. I want to copy it here as values only. And when I click that, no longer, now I changed them again, but no longer are those items going to be formulas. Before this, those were formulas up there. Let's go back and look at that again. See, that was a formula, that's a formula, that's a formula, that's a formula. Now I'm going to highlight these numbers. I am going to right-click on the edge of that. I'm going to pull it to the right, move it right back on top of itself to the left, let it up, copy here's values only, and when I do that, what I end up with is I end up with a situation, and let me get out of this, where those are no longer, look at that, those are no longer formulas, they are numbers, and they will not change. Okay, they'll stay the same. So that's really important. I've now got my random number identifier. The next thing that we will do is we will look at how we might use that to stratify our sample. I stated that one of the reasons to assign the random identifiers is to then be able to stratify my data, and to stratify it, to arrange it so that I can pick randomly from within each different strata, or subgrouping. Stratifying is just another name or another phrase for subgrouping our data. So in this case, let's use country for example. So I've already got this. I've got every one of these transactions has a country assigned to it. And I might want to first sort this data by country. So I can do that, but I want you to notice that the transaction that's right at the top for Canada is Canada Carretera. It's 0.31343 is the number, 1,618.5 units sold, which is kind of weird. So I'm going to sort this data, so I don't have to do anything other than just click anywhere in the table. I'm going to go up to Data on my top room, then over here towards Sort. And I'm going to choose something to sort by. I'm going to sort by, in this case, country. And I'm going to sort from A to Z. And when I do that, I want you to notice it sorted it by country, but the first one is still the first one. And in fact, these are still in the same order that they were. All the candidates in the same order that they were earlier, but I've just grouped them differently. Now, if I want to really randomly sort these, I'm going to do a second sort on this data. I'm going to sort. It's already being sorted by country. I'm going to add a level, and I'm going to sort it now by random number or random identifier from smallest to largest. Now, when I do that, now I've resorted all the Canadas, and I've resorted all the Frances, and I've resorted all the, let's see what's next, Germanys. I've resorted all those transactions, and within their subgrouping, I've resorted them in order of random number. Now, these are random numbers, so the order that they're now in is technically random. So if I need to select, for instance, 10 Canadian transactions, I could simply choose the first 10, and I would be very confident that those 10 are randomly ordered. They're not in any order, they're in random order. And so now I've been able to take subgroupings, and then within each subgrouping, I've been able to randomly sort by simply sorting the random numbers I identified earlier, putting them in numerical order, and that creates a random sort or random sample for me. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you'll see now how you can use this in an audit situation, in a situation when you need to sort items randomly and also stratify them.